So when we're doing low voices, I have a baritone voice. Um, Although my speaking and singing voice is quite often a tenor voice. This sounds perhaps more like a tenor voice to you because I speak at the top of my register. But when I've got to try and sound like a bass. You know, Roger Moore was very tall. Tall people, everything's longer on tall people, including quite often the vocal cords, which is why people like Max von Sydow and Roger Moore have these amazing voices. And who's the other fellow in the Ninth Gate? Gorgeous voice. I'm not tall. I don't have a deep voice, but it's flexible enough. And most of you will have a baritone voice, which can go right the way down there if you wanted to. But it doesn't sound very strong at the moment, does it? It sounds like a newsreaders. You know, women newsreaders often push their voice right down into their boots like that, don't they, when they're talking? I don't know why, but they do. But you don't want to sound like you're pushing your voice down. It wants to sound like it's naturally down there. So how do we do that? There's a few different things you can do. Another reason a voice sounds deep is because it's using the chest resonance chamber much more than the head. You've got a few resonance chambers around here, and depending which chamber you're using to resonate the voice through affects the sound. And you can actually create resonance chambers that aren't normally there, and I will show you that in a minute. So we've got our chest voice, which I'm using now, obviously. And if I'm using my head voice, I'm up there. That's my head voice up there, which I might use, say, if I'm very stressed or something. I might say, get that car out the way. But if I want to use my chest voice, it's there. So if I really wanted to sound more assertive, I'd use my chest voice to do that. Now, once we push the voice down, how do we get it sounding rounder? First thing you can do is to try and relax the bass voice to get it going, just to warm it up. And I do this with a growl. If I can't find the bass voice, I use this growl. And it's like this. So we're making this lot vibrate. And it's kind of right at the back of the voice. It's not in the throat. It's not. It's not there. It's not a French rolled R. We're not going like you do when you're singing. No, it's way further back than that. And this is, I call it the Al Pacino. I call it the Pacino because he uses it in speech to make himself sound more weighty. And Al Pacino's the same height as me. So he's had to learn to give himself weight and solidity through his voice and his acting, of course. Oh, do you want to play? So that's why he's down there all the time. When he's angry, he's down there like that. Oh, you got a problem. So he's down there like that. So you're just loosening up the voice there, down there, and just, it's a relaxed breathing through that, okay? Now, I talked about creating resonance chambers. I can create a resonance chamber in my mouth like that, right? I can open up my tongue, pull it down, and create a resonance chamber for doing some kinds of voices. So already you can hear a little bit of Roger Moore there, right? I'm just pulling my tongue back and down, and you can hear we're getting to a sort of Roger Moore type thing. And there are other voices that use that mouth shape, other celebrity voices that you might do. I can't actually think of one off the top of my head, but there are. I know I can feel that I'm using a shape that I've used for voices. That was very Roger, wasn't it? See that, and that came because of doing that chest exercise. because it's so relaxed there. It's just and it's not in the throat. It's not I'm not creating a scratchiness there. I'm not creating a scratchiness. It just arrives like that. It just arrives because it's relaxed back here. Now we want to create a resonance chamber at the soft palate, okay, which is, if you pull the tip of your tongue back along the roof of your mouth as far as you can possibly go, you will notice that the top of the roof of your mouth changes from hard to soft. That's a soft palate. You can open that, and I'm going to tell you how. All you have to do is start to yawn. Oh, you notice when you yawn, you sound like Roger Moore. Okay, so we're going to yawn, and we're going to get the tongue into that position that I said there, and now you can hear that I already start to sound like Roger Moore. Now, I'm quite lucky because my accent is already quite close to his. I have quite an old-fashioned accent, as it is. But I need to go back a little bit further. We need to go back to the 1950s to a much more received pronunciation accent, which is more like that, more like Margaret Thatcher. And in fact, this vocal position is similar to Margaret Thatcher. So for me, when I want to do Roger Moore, I start with Margaret Thatcher usually, and she gets me to Roger Moore. So I start there with Margaret Thatcher, and then I just take the voice further and further down until I find Roger Moore. Now the final thing that you need to do for Roger Moore, well, don't forget the R's. All the R's for Roger Moore are done with the tip of the tongue on the palate. They're not done like that. Daniel Craig, his R's are very much there. He's very much there. And he does that resonance chamber in the mouth. His resonance chamber is here, right in the mouth. So Daniel Craig's resonance chamber is here. And that's how he does it. And his R's are right here, because he's constantly... It's part of the way that he shapes his face to pout. Make himself look tough. And it affects the voice. Your face, how you look, and how you sound are all intertwined and interconnected. Because you can't sound like Daniel Craig unless you're making that tough, stern face. You can't. You've got to look like that to be sounding like Daniel Craig. You've got to have that face, because your face has to be set in that shape to make the resonance chamber work, and to get those very forward, very modern R sounds, liquid consonants, have to be right there, right in your face. What we call the face voice, actually, when we're singing. When we're singing, most men's natural voice, if they're being lazy, talking lazily, it's right back here. It's just right back here. If you're talking softly, I have a very soft voice. My voice is right back here. But if I want to bring it forward to the face voice, then it's there. It's there for singing. But when I'm talking, it's right back here. So it's a softer voice. My voice is very soft back here. But when I want to bring it forward, it comes to there. So it's the Daniel Craig, and then we go back to the Roger Moore. So my voice is closer to Roger's than Craig's to start with. But if I'm singing, when I sing pop songs, I'm there. So that's my pop voice is there. I always try to use the face voice. All the voices here. But it's back here for Roger. So we get the resonance chamber going back here, the yawn, we get the tongue. We get the tongue there at the back. We're getting the consonants. Focusing on getting the R there. Now we focus on getting the accent to the old-fashioned accent, the 1950s accent, in fact, and then we get the music going. This is the final icing on the cake for Roger Moore. Is the kind of sing-song way that he speaks. It's very soothing to listen to.
Just let those consonants just flow out like that. Nothing's forced. Unlike Daniel Craig, nothing is forced at all. Just let all those consonants just flow out like that. Don't even worry if you miss one, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter too much. And that's Roger Moore.